Take a second to look at the rain hitting the pavement outside. It's a bit cold, a bit gray, just like a Tuesday in Paris back in 1925. Now, imagine you're sitting in a plush velvet chair at the Hotel de Crillon, one of the fanciest spots in the city. You're sipping an expensive cognac, and across from you sits a man who looks like he owns the world. He doesn't, of course, but he's about to sell you a piece of it that he definitely doesn't have the deed for. This is the story of Victor Lustig, a man whose confidence was so heavy it probably had its own gravitational pull. Most people, when they need a bit of quick cash, might sell an old watch, or perhaps a bicycle they no longer use. Victor Lustig, however, had slightly higher overhead costs and a much more ambitious vision of what constituted spare parts. He looked at the Eiffel Tower, the very symbol of French pride and engineering, and didn't see a monument. He saw 7,000 tons of scrap metal that was just sitting there, waiting for a removal van. The irony is that the city actually hated the thing for years, calling it a giant rusted eyesore that ruined the skyline. Lustig was reading a newspaper article, just a casual morning read, that mentioned how expensive it was to maintain the tower. The city was complaining about the rust, the paint, and the general upkeep of Gustave Eiffel's giant tripod. Most people would read that and think, man, taxes are high. Lustig read that and thought, I bet I could find someone stupid enough to buy this. It was a moment of pure, cynical genius that only a man with absolutely no moral compass could possibly conceive, and he decided to act on it immediately. Before we get into the how, we should probably talk about the who. Victor Lustig wasn't actually a count, despite what his forged stationery might have suggested to the casual observer. He was a professional wanderer, a polyglot who spoke several languages fluently, and a man who understood human nature better than most therapists. He spent his youth on transatlantic ocean liners, fleecing wealthy travelers with fake money printing machines. He knew that if you look like you belong in a room, nobody is ever going to ask to see your ID. You have to understand the vibe of 1925 Paris to really get why this worked. The Great War was over, the Annie Falls or the Roaring Twenties were in full swing, and everyone was trying to get rich or look rich. There was a certain frantic energy in the air, a desire for progress and a willingness to believe in the impossible. The Eiffel Tower was originally built to be temporary anyway. It was supposed to be torn down years prior. In the minds of the public, the idea of it being sold wasn't actually that far-fetched. Lustig started by commissioning high-quality, forged government stationery. This wasn't some cheap photocopy job. It looked like it came straight from the desk of the Minister of Public Works and Telegraphs. He invited 6 of the city's top scrap metal dealers to a top-secret meeting at the Hotel de Crillon. He didn't pick a government office because, well, he didn't work in one. And besides, a luxury hotel creates a much better atmosphere for a bribe than a dusty, bureaucratic cubicle. He was selling an experience as much as a monument. When the dealers arrived, Lustig played the role of a weary, high-level official to absolute perfection. He told them that the government had finally decided the tower was too expensive to fix, and it had to go. But because the public would be outraged, the whole thing had to be handled with the utmost discretion. He made them feel like they were part of an elite secret circle. People love feeling like they know something the rest of the world doesn't. It makes them feel powerful, and more importantly, it makes them stop asking logical questions. Among the 6 dealers, Lustig's eyes landed on a man named Poisson. Now, Poisson was a bit of a social climber. He had money, sure, but he didn't have old money prestige. He wanted to be a big player in the Parisian business world, and he thought that securing the contract for the most famous landmark in history would put him on the map. Lustig saw that hunger in his eyes and knew he had his mark. Greed is a powerful drug, but the need for status is often much more expensive. Poisson had some doubts, though. He wasn't a total idiot. He wondered why the meeting was at a hotel and why everything was so rushed. Lustig, sensing the hesitation, did something brilliant. During a private meeting, he confessed to Poisson that his government salary was, let's say, insufficient for his lifestyle. He hinted that he needed a little extra to ensure the contract went to the right person. This was the masterstroke. By asking for a bribe, Lustig convinced Poisson that he was a genuine, corrupt government official. It's a funny bit of human logic, isn't it? Poisson thought, an honest official wouldn't meet me in a hotel, but a corrupt one definitely would. The request for a bribe actually made Lustig seem more authentic. It provided a reason for the secrecy that Poisson could understand. He wasn't just buying the tower, he was participating in a standard Parisian backroom deal. He handed over the cash for the bribe and the down payment for the tower, believing he had just made the deal of a lifetime, while Lustig was likely already checking train schedules. Once the suitcase of cash was in his hands, Lustig didn't stick around to help with the deconstruction of the tower. He didn't wait for the morning papers. He hopped on a train to Vienna and basically waited for the explosion. He expected to see his name on every front page in Europe. He expected a massive police manhunt. But as the days turned into weeks, something very strange happened. Or rather, nothing happened at all. There were no reports of a stolen tower, no warrants, and no angry dealers screaming for justice. Reality was much more hilarious. André Poisson, upon realizing he had been fleeced for a fortune and didn't actually own a single bolt of the Eiffel Tower, was too humiliated to go to the police. Can you imagine that walk to the station? Yes, officer. I tried to buy the Eiffel Tower from a man in a hotel lobby, and I'd like my bribe money back, please. He knew he would be the laughingstock of Paris society. He chose to take the financial hit just to save his reputation. Silence, it turns out, is a con man's best friend. Most people would take the money and retire to a quiet life of luxury. But Victor Lustig wasn't most people. He was a man who clearly suffered from a terminal case of being way too good at this. 6 months later, seeing that nothing had happened, he actually went back to Paris to try and sell the Eiffel Tower again. He followed the exact same blueprint: new stationery, new dealers, new hotel. It's the kind of confidence that borders on a psychological condition, honestly. He just couldn't help himself. This time, however, the target wasn't as worried about his reputation. The second buyer realized something was fishy and went to the police before the money changed hands. Lustig, having a sixth sense for when the vibe changed, managed to escape just as the walls were closing in. He fled to the United States, leaving the Eiffel Tower exactly where it was, standing tall, rusted, and still very much owned by the French government. But his career as the world's most charming headache was only just beginning in the New World. Lustig's American tour was just as chaotic. He once even managed to con Al Capone. Yes, that Al Capone. He convinced the mobster to invest $50,000 in a scheme, then kept the money in a safe for 2 months, returned it, and claimed the deal fell through. He apologized for not making Capone any money. Capone was so impressed by Lustig's honesty that he gave him $5,000 as a reward. Lustig successfully conned a man who killed people for fun just by being polite. What makes a man like Lustig so fascinating isn't just the crime, it's the understanding of what we want to believe. He didn't sell metal, he sold the dream of being important. He sold the idea that there are shortcuts to greatness if you're just in the know. Every one of us wants to believe we found a secret door that everyone else has missed. Lustig just happened to be the guy standing next to the door, holding a fake key and a very convincing smile. Of course, you can only outrun the law for so long before your luck runs out, or your ego gets too big for your suitcase. Lustig was eventually caught in 1935, not for selling landmarks, but for a massive counterfeiting operation. He was sent to Alcatraz, the one place where his charm couldn't open any doors. Even in prison, he was known as a refined gentleman who never lost his cool. He died in 1947, leaving behind a legacy that is equal parts impressive and absolutely ridiculous. We like to think we're smarter now, don't we? We have the internet, we have background checks, we have 2FA, and yet people still fall for the modern equivalents of the iron asparagus sale every single day. The platforms change, from hotel lobbies to crypto wallets, but the psychology remains the same. If someone offers you something that seems too good to be true, and they make you feel like a genius for seeing it. You're probably about to become the next Andre Poisson. Today, the Eiffel Tower is the most visited paid monument in the world. It's hard to imagine Paris without it. It's even harder to imagine that it was once considered so worthless that a guy with a fake letterhead could convince a businessman it was destined for the scrap heap. It stands as a reminder that value is often just a matter of perception. To the tourists, it's art. To the city, it's a gold mine. To Victor Lustig, it was just a very large, very stationary piece of bait. So, the next time you see a deal that looks a bit too polished, or a person who seems a bit too certain, just remember our friend, the Count. He proved that you don't need to own something to sell it. You just need to understand the person who wants to buy it. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and maybe don't buy any landmarks today, unless they come with a very, very long receipt. Would you like me to tell you about the man who sold the Brooklyn Bridge next? Because that one is a whole other level of, you've got to be kidding me.